On behalf of all assembled here today, I should now like to invite our newest alumnus, Dr. Maria Klawe, to address Convocation.
Good morning. It's a thrill to be here, and I want to start by congratulating all of today's graduates and thank you for the opportunity to give the Convocation address. I'm particularly happy to be giving the address at the Engineering Convocation, as engineering is one of the best educations enabling graduates to make the world a better place. I will start with the story of my convoluted path into engineering. I also want to highlight the importance of encouraging and supporting all kinds of people, men, women, people of all races and backgrounds, to become engineers. 50 years ago, when I was applying to universities, yes, it's very hard for me to believe it's that long ago, there were almost no girls interested in becoming engineers. I had grown up as my father's son. I was the second of 4 daughters, and I was convinced I was actually a boy who had the bad fortune to be born in a girl's body. Almost everything that I liked, math, playing the trumpet, painting, woodworking, and building stuff, was not supposed to be for girls. I thought civil engineering and architecture would be the best way to combine my loves for math, art, and design and creative problem solving, and was accepted into the engineering program at the University of Alberta. While registering for classes, I was told that as an engineering major, I would not be allowed to take the most advanced math classes because those were reserved for the honors math and physics majors. As anyone in my family can tell you, the easiest way to convince me to do something is to tell me I'm not allowed. So in an instant, I transferred to being an honors math major and decided I'd just have to satisfy my love for painting by being an artist on the side. I loved my classes in math and fine arts, but by the start of my 3rd year, I was frustrated that I couldn't figure out how I could use pure math to make the world a better place. In December 1970, I dropped out and spent the next 21 months traveling. A year later, while on a beach in India, I finally accepted that I couldn't live without doing math and decided to return and do a PhD. While doing my PhD, I was sure my career would be as a math professor in a Canadian university. It never happened. That year, there were only a couple of academic openings for pure mathematicians in Canada the year that I graduated. I didn't get either of them. I did get an assistant professorship at a university in Michigan and took it, but I hated it, mostly for lifestyle reasons. No ethnic restaurants, no foreign movies, no bookstores, no boyfriends, I was single, and no other Canadians. By chance, I discovered that some of the mathematicians whose research I respected were professors in computer science rather than math departments, and that there were lots of job openings in computer science. I decided to do a second PhD, and in the fall of 1978, I started as a graduate student at the University of Toronto. My plan was to do all of the course requirements in my first year and write my thesis in the second. 5 months later, I was being asked to apply for positions in computer science departments in Canada. Toronto heard that I was interviewing for positions elsewhere, and they demanded that I apply to their department. I did, and in the fall of 1979, started as an assistant professor in computer science. And I should clarify, people say I got a second PhD in computer science. I didn't. I got hired as an assistant professor of computer science, so I do have an honorary doctorate from Toronto, so in computer science, so sort of. Since then, I've spent much of my research career in both math and computer science, and have satisfied my desire to make the world a better place by working on transforming the culture of science and engineering so that these fields are supportive of women and members of other underrepresented groups. In Canada, most computer science departments are in the Faculty of Science, and eventually, after working at IBM Research in San Jose and being head of computer science at UBC, I became Dean of Science at UBC. After 14 wonderful years at UBC, I decided that if I wanted to influence the culture of science and engineering around the world, I needed to return to the United States. Canada is definitely a better country. That was true even before November 2016. But the culture of science and engineering is largely set in the United States. And for the most part, the US is oblivious to what happens in Canada. Well, actually, given the G7 summit, actually the US is paying more attention to Canada than usual. But in the US, most computer science departments are in the Faculty of Engineering, and that's how I ended up as Dean of Engineering at Princeton University, and then as president at Harvey Mudd College, a tiny undergraduate college of science and engineering in Southern California. Harvey Mudd was founded in 1955, so it's a lot younger than the University of Western Ontario, with the goal of creating leaders who understand the impact of their work on society. Over the last decade, the college has focused on learning how to recruit and retain women and people of color in fields like engineering, computer science, and physics, where they are strongly underrepresented at most institutions. In that time, the percentage of computer science majors at Harvey Mudd College who are female has gone from 10% to 50%. In engineering, from 25% to between 45 and 55%, depending on the year, and in physics, from 20% to 50%. We've also seen dramatic increases in students of color in all our disciplines. The key elements in this success have been, 1, aiming for a learning environment where everyone feels engaged and supported. 2, making clear connections between concepts and tools and their impact on solving key problems facing the world. And 3rd, emphasizing collaboration, creativity, and communication skills for everyone. I know that the University of Western Ontario also embraces these approaches. And in fact, sometimes I say that Harvey Mudd, working at Harvey Mudd, it reminds me of being at UBC and the very best honors students that I worked with there, because Harvey Mudd students are very Canadian. They're hardworking, they want to improve the world, they're humble, and they're very talented. So now let me finish by trying to inspire you to do great things in making the world a better place. Until I was in my mid-30s, I thought that one's long-term level of achievement and impact was mostly influenced by one's ability. I was wrong. Turns out that if one wants to make progress on an important problem, whether in research or in changing the world, the most important elements are, first, pick a good problem. It's really a waste of your effort if it's not at least a good problem. 2, persist and work hard, especially when success is doubtful. And 3, regularly evaluate your approach and be willing to rethink your strategy. So I'm very stubborn, as I already mentioned, and I have a habit of running at full speed into brick walls. This is not necessarily a good idea. In most cases, the brick wall is stronger than I am. So when I say reevaluate your strategy, what I mean is, I quite often find that if I just look a little bit further down that brick wall, there's a door, and you can open it. In most cases, it's also important to know how to build teams and alliances and to be willing to ask for help. People do great things when they decide to do a great thing and stick with it. Every single one of you is capable of doing great things. I want to close with some advice for your future based on my experience. Number 1, build your support network. Recruit and nurture your cheerleaders. I'm very lucky to have had an amazingly supportive husband for the last 38 years and 2 wonderful children who are now 36 and 33. That is so hard to believe. But I also intentionally mentor many other people. I learn as much or more from them as they do from me, but even more importantly, if I'm discouraged by the lack of progress in my day job, spending time talking to a mentee re-energizes and inspires me. Number 2, ask for help. Because I've been the first woman in my role for the last 30 years, I sometimes feel vulnerable and have tended to refrain from asking for or even taking help when it's offered. Over time, I've learned that asking for and taking help is incredibly effective in resolving issues and crises. And like everything else, it gets easier with practice. And then last but not least, do not be afraid to fail. You learn more from failure than from success. And by being open about failing, you empower others around you to aim high and risk failure. I'm incredibly proud of all of you and what you have achieved. And I have no doubt that you're going to make the world a better place. Congratulations again to the graduating class of 2018.